Hey guys, what is up? It is Will coming at you with another Buddyfight video, and in this video I'm going to teach you how to get good. And by teach I mean give you a few tips, because obviously I ain't no expert, but I'm going to give you a few pointers on what I have noticed to be helpful on helping me to get better at the game and get myself to that competitive level. So let's start out with something it's pretty obvious, but I feel like doesn't get talked about nearly enough, is picking your buddy. So it seems like a pretty simple or obvious thing, but I'm just gonna tell you what I do and you can agree with me or disagree. So I have two rules that I usually go by. If it's the boss monster of the deck, like Deadly Eyes, Black Dragon Knight Gale, Agito, Astrologia, Garga, and you're guaranteed to call it, buddy it. Make you a buddy. If it's a small monster like a size 1 or 0, that's a helpful card that's like gives you resources and you plus off of it and you call it regularly, make it your buddy. So Atora, Fret I think for Astros, if that's what it is, but stuff that gives you like resources, like I know Atora gauge and draws on enter, so that's a great card. So when you buddy call it, you Dragon Emperor Legend. Very nice, very smart. Next one's a pretty obvious one, but practice. Practice makes perfect. Practice combos, practice your opening turns, practice. If you know what your deck is doing, you're better, because then you're automatically better than someone who doesn't entirely know what all their cards do. So with that, read your card effects. If you know what your cards do, it'll be easier for you when you're at a tournament and your opponent doesn't know what your card does. If you don't know what you're doing either, they're going to call a judge and you might miss out on the opportunity because you might misplay, and that can get you in trouble sometimes. So read your cards. Next up, we have know your deck / winning condition. Now, everybody's probably going to say, I know my deck, I know how my win condition works. I'm playing Cursed Dragons, I'm playing Dragon Blood Sect, I'm playing Demon Dragons, whatever you're playing. But this ties into this last tip or suggestion of practicing, because knowing your deck in WinCon helps. That all that entails knowing your combos, when or how to respond, what your deck does good, what your deck does bad, your strong or weak matchups, how to deal with your weak matchups so it's not just an auto lose. Maybe there's some cards that you can put in to kind of give you that edge that you might need for that matchup. And knowing your combos will allow you to know how to respond when your opponent tries to debilitate your strategy. So speaking of disruption, that's my next suggestion, is try to fit in at least 2 cards in the deck to disrupt or disturb your opponent's plays, because being able to go off with your win condition while like slowing your opponent down will always be beneficial. So a great one for this, it's gonna make me feel as bad because Dragon World Spell Nose are fantastic right now and they've all gotten reprinted. So if your deck runs Spell Nose, I recommend at least running 2. Depending on the deck, you might not need it. If it's an FTK, why are you running it, in my opinion? But try to run some stuff to kind of slow your opponent down and disrupt their plays, because that'll help you speed up your plays. Because if they can't do anything, or if they have to slow down while you're not, it's just going to make everything a lot easier for you. So next up is ratios. I have a few personal rules of thumb for how I determine how many copies of each card I'm going to run. And the first one, for 4 copies, it's going to be if it's your buddy or you want to see it opening hand every game and you want to see it regularly, 4 copies. Because if you don't want to see it, why are you running it? If you want to see it in your opening hand, but after that you don't want to see it all the time, but seeing it isn't terrible, 3 copies. If it's searchable, you can tend to run it lower and just run more searchers. So is it helpful to your deck but not necessary, and it's more just to gain that extra advantage, or it's not super necessary, like if you see it, you see it, if you don't, you don't. 2 copies, because it's enough to see it more often, or enough, but it's not going to help your win condition. 2 copies is fine. So if it's a very, very situational tech or spicy tech, or it's just limited to one, rip my boy Overturn Abigail. You just play it at 1 because obviously if it's limited to 1, you're not going to put it at 2 because that's disqualification. I'm assuming I've never done it. If it's very situational, why are you going to put it higher so you see it all the time? If that situation is not very common or not going to pop up that much, why do you want to see that? Why are you going to put a card that's dead most of the time then? 1 cop. That's how I determine my ratios. Last and final recommendation is find generic cards for the deck. And by generic, I do not mean loyalty or time sale. I mean generic cards like Hiding Oni, Bot's Link, Devil's Stigma, Starjack Boost, No Pain, No Gain, I think, for Magical. I think that's what it's called. But those cards would be considered generic because they're very splashable and they're not tied to a specific deck or archetype. One would be a good example of that would be Black Ritual. It's a very good card for the deck because at the time it came out, you were only really playing Black Dragon Mill or Black Dragon Set. So it was a very good card, and it still is a good card because you gauge life and draw 2, I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong. But cards like Hiding Oni, you just drop a soul of a card and you engage and draw 2 cards. Devil's Stigma, you just attack 3 times and check top 3. Devil's Stigma on your opponent, when your opponent tries to destroy something, you can just counter pop it yourself to gain pluses. Those are all very helpful because since they're so splashable in the deck, they can give your deck or strategy that little push it needs to bring it to that next level. And it kind of messes with your opponent because, for example, Devil Stigma, if you Devil Stigma something while your opponent attacks, the attack whiffs and doesn't go through. So they just wasted an attack while you gained resources. Being able to think ahead or look at those, find those cards and find out what would or would not work with your deck is very helpful and is something minor that can do a lot. So for little effort of just throwing it in a Hiding Oni, you get that strong draw power that your deck might need. Those are the tips or suggestions I have for you guys to bring yourself to that next level. If you guys have any other ones that I did not include, feel free to put them in the comments. If you liked it, if you found it informative, leave a like, comment something that if you have any questions or ideas. I might be doing a how to build a deck or deck building tip video. Leave a like if you liked it, comment if you want to talk about it, subscribe if you want to see more card game content for Buddyfight. I'm trying to do Chrono Clash stuff, but it's kind of hard because my locals does not really have anyone for it, so it's really just me playing with myself. Anyways, take it easy, y'all.